Hi, Mike Krentz, author here, to read to you from the third book in the Dr. Zack Winston Medical Conspiracy series. The title is Death Agent. 16-year-old Annie Winston relished her first proper breakfast since her admission to Bethesda Metro Hospital after a near drowning 2 weeks ago. 5 days out of the intensive care unit, she'd finally progressed to a regular diet. She stuffed a forkful of scrambled eggs into her mouth and stared at the early January light coming through the window of her room. I should be dead, except for Dad and Bridget. As if on cue, her dad, Dr. Zack Winston, entered the room. He wore dark blue surgical scrubs, his uniform when on duty in the Bethesda Metro ER. He approached her bed and hugged her. When they released the hug, he cast a hungry look at her breakfast tray. That looks wonderful. He snatched a slice of bacon from her plate. Dad! Her dad recoiled. His bacon-snatching hand stopped midway from plate to mouth. Had Annie's voice sounded as harsh to him as it did to her? She hadn't meant it that way. Sorry, Dad. Dad returned the bacon to her plate. No, I'm sorry. You need the nourishment for recovery. Says the doctor. Annie and her dad both turned toward the voice from the doorway. Her mother entered the room and planted a kiss on Annie's forehead. Word of advice, the mom said. Never trust an ER doc around food. They will steal meat from a starving hyena if given a chance. She gave Annie's dad a searing stare. Then she smiled. Kidding, of course. Sure you are, the dad said with a knowing smile. He pecked Annie's mom on the cheek. You okay? Mom scoffed. Of course. I almost died so my divorced parents could fake being nice to each other? Dad turned serious. Annie, are you really okay with talking to the detectives this morning? You don't have to do it yet. Annie shrugged. I'm fine, Dad. If I can help bring those whoever to justice. She startled and her voice trailed off when the door opened. A middle-aged, hefty man and a younger woman entered. The woman looked like she'd come straight from the gym, except for her tailored suit that made a sharp contrast to the man's ill-fitting khaki pants and rumpled shirt without a tie. We can wait until you finish your breakfast, the woman said. I'm done. Annie would have liked to eat more, but worried that would be weird under the circumstances. Her mother took the tray from the table and set it outside the door. Annie, her dad said, this is Agent Mason from the FBI and Detective Martinez from Montgomery County Police Department. Pleased to meet you, Miss Winston, the stuffy agent said. Call me Tina, the detective said. Annie's dad introduced her mother. This is Dr. Natalie Lewis, Annie's mother. She's a psychiatrist who practices in California. After everyone exchanged pleasantries, Annie's dad positioned 2 chairs near her bed. Please sit, he said to the visitors. Dr. Lewis and I will stand back. Call me Natalie, please. Mom gave Dad a withering look. Right, the FBI agent said, and he and the detective took their seats. Detective Martinez looked at Annie with a pleasant expression. You know you're not in trouble here, right? Annie felt unsure, but nodded. Also, you're free to talk to us as much or as little as you like. If you get tired or uncomfortable, just say so and we'll end the interview. We're grateful you agreed to meet with us so soon after your trauma? I'm okay. Annie forced her voice to sound firm. The detective turned to the FBI agent. Why don't you start? Sure, the man said. Annie, can you tell us what you remember? In your own words? We're most interested in what happened at the good house and, if you're willing, at the river. A door to Annie's brain slammed shut. She flinched. The good house? I don't... She looked to her dad for help. Dad glanced at Mom, his face wary, then back to Annie. How about you start with whatever you remember from that day, the day after Christmas? Another door closed in Annie's brain. Sarah, I met Sarah at a Starbucks and Detective Martinez spoke. Would that be Sarah O'Brien? Annie grimaced. I think so. I mean, that could be her last name. I don't remember. She scrunched her face and glanced at her mom, then back at the detective. Sarah was Dad's girlfriend. She blinked. I think she was. Her mind went numb. The detective spoke in a kind voice. Do you remember why you met Sarah O'Brien at that Starbucks on the day after Christmas? Annie winced, gave a pained look at her mother, and fought off a sudden urge to cry. I'm sorry, Mom. Her mom moved forward and touched her hand. It's okay, love. I know about it. Annie wanted to be anywhere but in that room with her mom and dad and these law enforcement people. She pictured herself floating over them, watching the scene below, as if another girl occupied her bed. Do you need a break? Asked Tina. Annie's mind crashed back down to the bed. She closed her eyes, calmed herself, then looked at the detective. I'm okay. Go on, then, the FBI man said, his voice impatient. Tina shot him a scolding look. Annie looked between her parents and back at Tina. She pretended she was acting in a play. I was pregnant. Sarah promised to take me for an abortion. Annie wiped a tear from the corner of her eye. Did she? Take you for an abortion? Tina asked. Annie searched her brain. Found no answer. I don't know. The detective glanced at Annie's parents and spoke to Annie in a soft voice. Can you tell us what you do remember? Anything at all? Annie's mind became a blank sheet. She strained to find the slightest memory. I remember meeting Sarah at Starbucks, then... She tried hard, but her memory had become a dense fog. Dad was talking to me in the ICU here at the hospital. She looked at her dad. You said you loved me more than your own life. A tear erupted from the corner of one eye. Dad wiped a similar tear from his own eye. I did say that. I meant it. Annie's mom stepped forward. Maybe this is a good time for a break. The FBI man tried to protest, but Tina stopped him. That's fine. She looked at Annie. Would you like us to come back in a little while? Or should we wait until another day? Annie felt like her brain would explode. Please, can you all just leave me now? She pleaded with her parents. You too. Then she turned away and faced the window. To Annie Winston, her entire world had just ripped apart. I hope you enjoy Death Agent, as well as the other two books in the Dr. Zack Winston medical thriller series, and it's a pleasure to read for you. Thank you.